Superman debuted in 1939 with issue number 1. We're going to analyze the covers of every single issue from number 1 up until 1960. So we do a full coverage of the first 20 years. We're going to analyze every cover, who's on the cover, all the logo and design changes. We'll talk about key issues. We'll even talk about how rare they are on the CGC census. So let's dive in. Superman number 1 came out summer 1969, includes a bunch of reprints, 64 pages for 10 cents. This was to cash in on the popularity of this new hero that appeared in Action Comics just a year earlier. The book was a massive success. Print run, I believe, about 1.5 million. There are 3 printings of number 1. CGC does not separate them, so we don't know what ratio we have of each of the 3 covers. The covers, I believe, are the same on all 3 printings. So we've got the glorious design of number 1, really stands out. Number 2 comes out. Notice that initially this title is only published 4 times a year. 10-cent cover price always. Notice that there is no number 1 printed on the cover of number 1, but number 2 and 3 have number 2 and 3 literally printed on the covers. Number 4, they start putting the number in a circle. And number 4, we've got a bald-headed character, but it's not Lex Luthor. Number 3 is the first appearance of any other person on the cover, a boy. We also have a train cover. Number 5, we have first woman on a cover. 6 is a classic pinup issue, very highly collected. Let's go over to the CGC to look at these initial issues. Superman number 1 only has 80 universal copies graded. The highest is a 9. And number 1 is the origin of Superman. It's the first mention of the name Krypton in comics, and there's a Superman pinup on the back cover. Superman number 2 has a Jerry Siegel story. Superman number 3 also has a Jerry Siegel story. Superman number 4 is the second appearance of Lex Luthor. There are 2 Luthor stories in that issue. Superman number 5 also has a Luthor appearance and a full-page ad for Batman number 1 and All-Star Comics number 1. And number 6 has a text story by Gardner Fox and a half-page ad for All-Star Comics. Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster are still working on all these Superman stories. And you can see out of the early issues, the easiest one to find is Superman number 4, 234 copies graded, all conditions combined. That's still not a lot of comics out there compared to like Silver or Bronze Age comics. Starting with number 7, we are entering the World War II era. So this is the first of many war-related covers, number 7. And we have a different type of logo. I want you to notice on number 7 and 8, in small print, there's a different price for Canada, but it's still regular 10 cents in the United States. We've got a big explosion cover and a guy with a gun on number 8. 9 is a great pinup cover. Number 10, another classic cover, and these aren't so hard to find. I actually see these on eBay. They do turn up. We've got a gun an airplane crashing in number 10. Another great pinup cover on number 11. Number 11 is also unique. It's the first one that has a DC Comics logo in the top right corner. Number 12 is another classic war pinup cover with 2 veterans of the war on that cover. Let's go back to the CGC really quickly. Number 7 is the first appearance of Perry White. Number 8 has a full-page ad for All-Star Comics. Number 3, Jerry Siegel worked on number 9. Number 10 is the first bald Lex Luthor in comics. So that's actually a major key. And notice the number of copies graded, just over 200 for most of these issues. Superman number 12 also has a Lex Luthor appearance. So he's early on very proven to be, this is Superman's main villain. He's in most of the issues. Looking back at the covers, number 13, we've got another war cover. 14, possibly the greatest Superman cover ever. This is a high-demand classic cover of the war and a pinup cover with an eagle and very patriotic. Everyone wants that one. 15, the bridge has been damaged down below. 16, the first Lois Lane and Clark Kent cover in this series. 17, another classic pinup cover related to the war. We've got Hitler on the cover. And 18, another great pinup cover, War Savings Bonds and Stamps, and fighting Japan and the Nazis, called the Japanazis. Now, Superman, you'll notice since number 6 is now bi-monthly. Looking at the CG census, you can get all the stats on how rare the books are, what the highest grades are, and we can see that 13 has the first Superman DC publication logo. Lex Luthor is in this issue again. 14 is the classic Shield cover. 15, Jerry Siegel story, Fred Ray cover. 16 is the first Lois Lane cover in this title. 17, Hitler and Tojo cover, another Luth appearance, and the first Fortress of Solitude issue, at that time called The Secret Citadel. And in 18, we've got a Luthor appearance again, and an ad for Wonder Woman #1. Number 19, he's carrying a car. He's done that in a lot of classic early covers, whole bunch of women and a family in the car. 20 is another war cover. We've got a big explosion. Number 21, giant Superman being drawn on a billboard. And 22, playing with marionettes. 23, another war-related cover. And the first time we see the swastika on the cover. Notice also with number 21, they started publishing the word Superman in the top left corner. And 24, another iconic patriotic war cover of Superman, very high in demand. Going back to the census, let's talk about these ones. So Superman 19, Lee Nowak and a bunch of others did the art. Jerry Siegel story. 20 has a puzzler appearance and an ad for Boy Commanders #1. 21, another Jerry Siegel story. 22 features the Prankster and Adolf Hitler. And there's an interesting ad for the Adventures of Superman novel, a book that you could read outside of comic books. 23 is a classic war cover. And 24 is a classic flag cover. Moving forward, number 25, we've got children on the cover. 26 is another war-related cover. 27, Lois Lane. And notice that there is a very rare variant cover of this, the Overseas Service Edition. What's the actual difference? It actually has the months printed on the cover, but that seems to really be the only change. 28, Superman's compared to Atlas and Hercules. And 29, I'm not positive if that's Lois Lane. We'll double check in a minute, but we've got different military servicemen on this war-related cover. And number 30 has got Lois and Clark Kent on the cover again. Let's talk about these books. So 25, Clark Kent joins the army. 26 has a Mercury appearance, classic Goebbels war cover. 27 has the Toyman appearance. Notice not as many copies, only 141 graded. 28 has Lois Lane solo stories beginning regularly in this title. 29 has a Prankster appearance. And number 30 is a major key. It's the first appearance and origin of Mr. Mxyztlplk. And we'll debate on how to pronounce that later. 259 copies. That's a major key, so you can see it's one of the most graded comics of this era. And we're still during World War I. Okay, so now we're up to number 31. You can see we're sort of at an amusement park here. Superman's joining in the fun. 32, pinup cover. 33, a boy. 34 is a Red Cross war-related cover. And interestingly, that is the last World War II related cover of them all. And it is asking for support for the American Red Cross during the war. The war would end in August 1945. And so that would be at the same time as issue number 36 coming out. Notice 35, that might be Lois again. And let's go back to the stats about these books. 31, Luthor appears again. 32 has the Toyman. 33 is the third appearance of Mr. Mxyztlplk in comics in general. 34 is another Luthor appearance. 35, J. Wilbur Wolfingham appears in this issue. And 36, another Mr. Mxyztlplk appearance. So he's become also a very common character in this era in the mid-40s. 37, you can see he's Mxyztlplk is on the cover again. So I believe that's him, or is that Toyman? We'll confirm that in a minute. 38, at the barber shop. And look, is that him reading a Batman comic with the Three Musketeers that was out at that same time? 39, he's playing with kids. 40, another Mr. Mxyztlplk cover. 41, Superman is sitting with a drawing board. And 42 is the first music-themed cover and one of the early Lois Lane covers as well. 37 has the Prankster. 38 is a Luthor appearance and an atomic bomb story that came out shortly after the end of the war. And definitely would have been influenced by Hiroshima. We've got 39, Don Cameron's story. 40, Mr. Mxyztlplk and Susie appear in this issue. 41, the Prankster is back. And 42, Don Cameron and Alvin Schwartz story. Going back to the covers, there really hasn't been any design changes in years. Pretty consistent. We've got Superman in the top corner, the DC logo, Superman, its stylish logo from the beginning. We've got Toyman in 44 with some toys. 45, he makes his way to China. 49, he's looking at old photographs. And number 50, he's showing how strong he is to the kids that a lion can't hurt him. Let's look at these ones now. So we've got Lois Lane appears as Superwoman in number 45. Mr. Mxyztlplk appearance in 46. And the first mention of Superboy ever in this title. Toyman and Susie both appear in 47. Jerry Siegel still writing stories at this time. 48 is an interesting key. It's the first time travel by Superman, and it now is the last Jerry Siegel script in the title until he returns in 1959 in issue 133. That's 12 years later. Luthor appears in this issue again. Number 49 has a Toyman appearance. And 50, the Prankster appears, and we have a full-page ad for Mr. District Attorney #1 based on the popular radio show of that era. Well, Superman has made it to its 50th issue, and that is the first time any DC superhero has got that far with its own title. 51, we've got a Lois Lane cover. 53, a very classic, important issue, one of the most important ever, in fact, because it's the first major origin of Superman, and this was written basically at Superman's 10th anniversary. So we're celebrating the 10th anniversary of the character being published by DC, and of course he's massively popular. Superman and Captain Marvel are the two best-selling superheroes in the world at this time. So we've got some silly covers at this era as we're approaching the end of the 40s. And we've got Smarty Pants in number 56. Going back to the CGC census, you can see there's actually a Canadian edition variation of 51 and a Japanese variation edition of 53. So those would be extremely rare. Only a copy or two on the census. Notice that 52 has a Prankster appearance. There is a Canadian edition. 53, as I mentioned, the origin and the 10th anniversary issue. Also a classic cover. And there is a rare Canadian edition. 9 copies graded only. 54 has 2 different inside back cover ads existing. So that's the 2 different variations of this book for some reason. And there is also a Canadian edition. Number 55 was used in Seduction of the Innocent. It's got a Prankster appearance. And he's also in number 56. Notice how these comics have a lot less copies on the census. They're not worth as much, but they're still pretty tough to find, these books that are over 75 years old. 57, we've got a classic cover, Lois Lane in a Superwoman costume carrying, or actually flying, carrying Superman. The logo, you'll notice, let's go back and just double check, when did this happen? It just happened actually with issue 56, that the DC logo circle is on both of the top quarters. No longer says Superman in small print. We have a sports themed baseball cover for number 60. 61, we've got a whole bunch of women in love with Superman, including Lois Lane. Let's go over back to the census, look at the numbers, and look at what makes these books special. 57 has a Luthor appearance and Lois Lane as Superwoman on the cover. There's a full-page ad for Superboy #1, and there is a rare Canadian edition of this book. 58 is the first appearance of Tiny Tricks, and there's a William Woolfolk story. 59, Mr. Mxyztlplk is back. And in number 60, we have a Toyman appearance and a Bill Finger story. Al Plastino cover and artwork on that one. So we are now entering the 1950s. We've got Miss Metropolis of 1950 on cover of 63. Lois Lane is a professor in 64. 65 is the first sci-fi themed cover, and it ties to other Supermen from the planet Krypton. This was a fairly new idea. As we enter in the 50s, we're going to get a little more sci-fi oriented in our stories. 66 is another sports baseball themed issue. And 67, we've got real music singing sensation Perry Como on the cover, and Lois Lane is in love with him. He's one of the biggest stars on the radio, pop stars at that time. Let's go back and look at the census some more. Number 62 has got an Orson Welles cover and appearance. Mr. Mxyztlplk appearance, he's back again. 63 has the Toyman. 64, the Prankster returns. 65 is the first appearance of Mala, Kaizo, and Yuban. They are all villains from Krypton. And 66 has a Prankster appearance and an interior ad for Strange Adventures #1, truly showing that DC is now going to start entering the sci-fi market with their titles. That's a growing genre, like a lot of others are. At this time, romance, crime, and horror are other genres that are starting to become more popular. Superman is the best-selling superhero title for DC at this time, but also at this time, DC stops publishing all of their other superhero titles except titles relating to Superman, Batman, Robin, and Wonder Woman. They are the only ones to survive throughout the 50s. As we continue through our covers, number 68, another bit of a sci-fi cover. It's Luthor doing crazy mad scientist experiments. The Prankster is on the cover of 69. We've got Annie Oakley, Cowgirl on number 70, a true sci-fi rocket spaceship on 72. Let's look at the census and descriptions for these. You can see all the books are under 100 copies graded in all grades combined. 67 is that Perry Como appearance. 68 is the Luthor cover story. 69 is the Prankster. 70 is the Prankster and Annie Oakley, and an ad for another new sci-fi title, Mystery in Space #1 debuts from DC. 71 has Luthor appearing again. 72 has the Prankster appearing again. Which brings us up now to number 74, another Luthor cover. 75, look at this. There's actually two versions, and one of them has a misprint and actually has number 74 printed on the cover. So my guess would be 74 was originally printed in small numbers, and they noticed the error and corrected it with a number 75. So that's interesting. Somebody should study and see which one of those is rare, but we'll check that out on the CGC census in just a moment. Now, Superman 76 from 1952 is one of the most important issues of this entire series, because look at this. Batman, first cover appearance, crossover into Superman. 77 is another sci-fi themed issue tying into Krypton and further origin there. And 78 is a bit of a sci-fi title, The Beast from Krypton. So we're going to learn a little bit more about those now. So 74 does have Luthor. 75, you can see the misnumbered variant, the 74. There are less copies on the census, as I predicted. So Prankster appears on those, but remember there's 2 different versions. You should go on eBay, hunt those out. 76 has got the Batman appearance on the cover for the first time, but also Superman and Batman learn each other's identities for the first time ever. Now keep in mind, these characters have been around for over 13 years, and this is a very historic moment in the DC universe at that time. And then 77, Bill Finger stories, Wayne Boring and Al Plastino art, a Win Mortimer cover. And 78, Bill Finger stories, Stan K cover and art. All right, let's continue. 79, 80, we've got Superman's Big Brother. Look at that, another sci-fi Krypton related title. And in 81, we've got a female superwoman from space. Now, something that's changed recently, I don't know if you had noticed. Let's go back just a little ways. I forgot to mention it. Starting with number 64 in 1950, they started putting Superman's picture and his name in the top left corner. Now, comics are 52 big pages through this era, and this doesn't change for quite a while. 82, we've got a Lois Lane. She's in the military. 83, we've got Clark Kent as a convict in prison, and Lois Lane, policewoman in 84. So in 79, we have another Luthor appearance. 80 is the first appearance of Hulk Carr. 81 is another Luthor appearance. 82, Mr. Mxyztlplk appears. The book was printed with no cover price. 83 has a Win Mortimer cover, as does 84. 85 is another Luthor appearance, but he's not on the cover. 86, we've got a dragon from King Arthur's court on the cover. 2 Supermen are battling in 87, the Thing from 40,000 AD. And it looks like Luthor and, is that the Toyman and possibly the Prankster? Yes, all on the cover of 88. And we've got 3 Superman in a story called Superman's Secret Past in number 90. So 86, we've got Mr. Mxyztlplk appearing. 87 is the Prankster. 88, Prankster, Toyman, and Luthor, as I mentioned. 89, Lex Luthor appearance. And this is the first Kurt Swan cover in this title, drawing Superman in number 89. That's quite an important key. He becomes one of the most important Superman artists in the entire comic book history. And number 90 has another Lex Luthor appearance. Continuing on, 91, he's hitting Caesar's Ghost. 93, we have Lois on the cover. 95 is a Practical Joker cover. We've also got Lois and Jimmy Olsen. Could this be Jimmy Olsen's first cover on this title? 96, we have Mr. Mxyztlplk back on the cover. And we've also got, in 97, a whole bunch of action covers. I can't read the title there very well. We'll check it out in a minute. And number 98. Now, I want to show you something that's just happened here. This is another very important moment in comics. I don't know if you noticed it, but 95 is what we call the last pre-code issue. Some people would say that might be the last Golden Age issue, because in 96, the Comics Code Authority starts pushing their stamp of approval in the top right corner on all Superman and DC titles. This is mandatory to have your comics with wide distribution on the newsstands. So all the violence and all the horror comics disappear in this era. But Superman isn't really affected. It stays as still the best-selling Superman comic ever. And I forgot to mention that in 1953, DC sued Fawcett Comics and shut down Captain Marvel. So from that point on, Superman did not have his competition. So Superman is the best-selling superhero title by far. And it's also super boosted because the Adventures of Superman TV show ran for about 6 years, and it's currently on the TV in the mid-50s, just proving Superman's dominance even more than ever. Now, 91, we have a full-page ad for Congo Bill #1. 92, a full-page ad for Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen #1. Another proof that Superman is so popular with the TV series that even his pal Jimmy Olsen gets his own series. Excuse me. So that's kind of a unique thing. And of course, that title is going to last 20 years. 93, we've got an Al Pacino cover. 94, Win Mortimer cover. 95, as I mentioned, the last pre-code issue. It's the last appearance of Susie Tompkins for 23 years. 96, Mr. Mxyztlplk appearance, an Al Pacino cover. 97, we've got Superboy and Lana Lang appearances in a flashback. Is that Superboy's first appearance in the Superman title? Possibly. 98, we've got Al Pacino cover, as well as in number 99. Well, that brings us up to a historic landmark for the Superman title. We're about to get our 100th issue. And so we are into mid-1955. We're part of the Comics Code, so you can debatably say these are early Silver Age issues. Some people believe that this isn't the Silver Age quite yet. We need Showcase #4 to come out in 1956 first. So it's an interesting debate. I think I personally would probably say this is Silver Age. So the 100th issue, of course, celebrates some iconic covers of the past. This is a highly collected, valuable comic and a milestone for superheroes anywhere in comic books. And we've got 104 has got a bit of a sci-fi cover again, the Super Family from Outer Space. Looking back at the census, you can see there's a lot of copies of number 100 graded, being a special anniversary issue. But beyond that, you'll see the numbers drop quite a bit. Luthor appears in 101. 102 has a Stan K cover. 103, Mr. Mxyztlplk is back with an Al Pacino cover. He's also in 104. And there's a full-page ad for Showcase #1. And we've got number 105, Mr. Mxyztlplk is back again. So he's very popular in this area. Notice that Luthor is not being used as much. Notice that all the copies on the CGC are now less than 100 copies, and there really are no high-grade copies of these books at all. This era really was overlooked, and the high-grade copies don't exist, even though the print run of Superman at this time would have been extremely high. Just taking a wild guess, I would say the print run of Superman at this time is probably 1 million copies every month. That is why low-grade Superman comics seem so easy to find, because there were just more of them than anything else. Superman 106 has the origin of Superman retold, and Luthor does appear in this key issue. And you can see Luthor has a special suit in that one. Now, DC Comics ran a special 5,000 prizes gigantic contest, and this was on the cover for 3 months straight on every DC title at this time. So you can see it in 107, 108, 109. And 110 is definitely one of those weird sci-fi titles that are, or themes that are becoming more and more popular in all DC titles at this moment. And he's fighting a giant ant. 107, Wayne Boring cover. 108, Al Pacino cover. 109, Al Pacino cover. 110, Luthor is back on this Al Pacino cover. So as I mentioned, the Comics Code is now in the top right corner, so the DC logo has only been in the left corner since that started. 113, we've got a sci-fi theme, Superman of the present and Superman of the past. We've got this weird alien monster in 114. We've got the 3 substitutes of Superman in 115. Another zany theme. And this comic stories were getting sillier at this time in Superman and all Superman superhero related titles. So what do we got? 111 is Al Plastino cover. 112, Wayne Boring. There's a Luthor appearance. 113, Wayne Boring cover. If we jump down to 114, we've got Al Plastino cover. 115, Al Plastino again. 116, Superboy appears again in only a flashback. And Al Plastino cover art at this time. Nothing majorly standing out in this next batch of comics, but things are happening in other titles. At this time, Brainiac is debuting in Action Comics, and soon Supergirl is going to debut. 117 is a Luthor appearance. 119 is a Stan K and Kurt Swan cover. 120 is a full-page ad for Lois Lane #1. This is the time when the Superman TV show was ending, but there's no denying that all these characters are household names. So Lois Lane is going to go on to sell a truckload of comics as well. Superman is going to have a domination of the majority of the top 10 best-selling comics on the newsstands. You have Superman, you have Action Comics, you have World's Finest Comics, you've got Lois Lane, you've got Jimmy Olsen. There's also Adventure Comics. So that is 6 titles related to Superman, all of DC's best-selling titles in this era. Superman 121, Kurt Swan and Stan K cover. 122, Kurt Swan and Stan K cover. Now, one of my favorite covers appears right now. Is that Supergirl? It actually isn't. She's called the Girl of Steel, but this is now considered a classic prototype test for this character. So it's not officially Supergirl, but it kind of is. So this copy is worth a lot less than Action Comics 252, but it actually predates it. So I've always thought that this comic is undervalued. Rainbow cover there on 125. We've got Titano, a giant King Kong in 127, and 128, Aliens in a sci-fi themed cover right there. Comparing the CGC again, 80 or less copies of each of these graded. If we jump down, we'll look at 126. It has an Alfred E. Newman parody. Now, he was the new star of Mad Magazine, and Mad Magazine was also one of the biggest selling comics on the stands at this time and throughout the 60s and 70s, in fact. And if you can believe it, Alfred E. Newman in the 60s was outselling Superman month by month. 127, first appearance of Titano, and a full-page ad for Flash 105. That is the first issue of Flash getting his own series again, continuing the numbering from the title that had been canceled a decade earlier. Bruce Wayne appears in 128. And 129 is a major key, the first appearance and origin of Lori Lamaris, and a full-page ad for the first appearance of Supergirl in Action Comics number 252. And 130 has a Supergirl cameo, her first appearance outside of Action Comics. We also have a Superboy flashback and a Krypton appearance. And we're ending up at the end of the 1950s, and you can see we definitely have a lot of these funny stories, a lot of sci-fi related stories. We brought in a lot of new characters recently, and a lot of Krypton related characters. As the 50s end, it's still 10-cent cover price, as it's always been, and we finish at issue 133 to end off the 50s. We've got a war cover there. And just looking up the last few issues, 131 is a Mr. Mxyztlplk appearance. 132 has a Batman and Robin appearance and a robot cover. And the final issue of the 50s, Superman 133, auto binder, and a Jerry Siegel story comes back for the final issue of the 50s. And we've got Kurt Swan and Stan K cover art. Thanks for watching this video. Check out my others in this series.